Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I have last sat down and filmed a video, and especially a video like this. So if you guys didn't know, I mean, if you're following my channel, unless you've just randomly stumbled across it, you would know that I went to Europe last year solo. So I went there by myself, and so to tell a long story short, it was the best decision that I have ever made in my entire life. So I have been meaning to film this video for a long time now, and only now have I sat down and decided that I have to get it done. Because a lot has happened since I went overseas by myself, since I came home, and obviously in the course of this year, 2020, a lot of shit has gone down. So I haven't really had the opportunity to sit down and film it, and when I did, I didn't feel like it was the right time, and I was kind of just caught up in this cycle of it not being the right time to film this video. But I then decided that there actually is no right time, and there is no time like the present. So hence why I am now filming this video today, or tonight rather. So yeah, I thought I would sit down and finally do this video because I have really been wanting to share this experience with you all, because it was a life-changing experience for me. And if I can, you know, give some inspiration to just one other person, that is amazing. You know, I did a lot of my own research before I booked my solo trip, just based off other YouTubers' experiences. You know, I typed into YouTube, should I go solo traveling? Pros and cons of solo traveling for females, stuff like that. So if I can help, like I said, just one other person, that would be great. So hence why I'm doing this video now, and like I said, better late than never. And I thought, whilst I'm still editing my Contiki series videos, I've got about 4 or 5 of those left. Then I have my Positano vlog, which I cannot wait to edit and upload, because I know that that's going to be my most special vlog of the entire trip. I thought I may as well film this video now, so by the time I've finished editing those videos, I can just bang, upload this one, and voila, that will be the end of that chapter. Unless I decide to do some more reviews of Contiki and the other tours that I decided to go on, but at this stage, there's probably not much demand in terms of YouTube searches for, you know, travel companies at this point in time. So with that being said, it has almost been a year since I left for my last trip, which is just mind-blowing. I cannot believe that it has almost been in an entire year. Like, that is just crazy. I just can't believe that. So here I am, almost a year later, reviewing my trip. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. And the first point that I have is, why go solo? Why should you choose to go solo traveling in the first place? So I will link a little link up here or on this side to why I personally chose to go solo traveling last year. And in light of everything that's happened, you know, with virus and things in my own personal life, I am so happy that I chose to go last year, because if I waited around for someone else, it wouldn't have happened. So that is my first point. Don't wait around on other people to go traveling with. If you have the travel bug, okay, and you're like myself, and there is a long list of places that you want to go check out in this world, and you only have X amount of time, you know, with your work commitments and your social life and everything else you have going on in your life, don't wait around for someone else to go traveling with you, because by the time that person's ready, or you know, your friends are ready to go, situations change. Hello, 2020, this whole year has, you know, basically, you know, screwed us all over. And to be honest, it has really stuffed up my year and my plans in terms of traveling and all of my endeavors that I wanted to have moving forward, but that's another story. So, in the blink of an eye, my point is things can change, and whether you want to acknowledge that or not, that is the case. You know, just because today we're thriving or we're happy or we're healthy and we've got a job, tomorrow something could hit us and it could all be over, you know what I mean, before we know it. So we don't know how much time we have left on this planet, to put it in short. We don't know how much time we have. We don't know how our circumstances are going to change or differ in the amount of time that we have. There is a whole bunch of variables that could take place in our lifetimes. And to be honest, I don't want to take that chance. You know, if I've got the time, if I've got the money, if I want to go somewhere, I've got the burning desire to go somewhere, I'm going to go, whether that be by myself or with someone else. So that is why I went, because I had the desire, I had the money, and I had the time. And, you know, most importantly, I had this burning urge to go, and I just knew that that was what I had to do. And it sounds kind of cliche, and you might not agree with that point, but to be honest with you, that is what I knew I had to do, because inside of me, there was a voice inside of me that told me that that was what I had to do. And there was a few other avenues that I went down prior to booking my trip that I haven't even spoken about on social media, that I might do one day, or I might touch on in this video. But basically there was a few other things that I decided to do before booking my trip. And I decided that those things, they weren't going to bring me happiness, contentment, or fulfillment in my life, you know? So I kept seeing visions of Italy and all of the places in Europe that I so badly wanted to visit, and I'm so happy that I went there and I got to experience those things. Okay, so without further ado, let me tell you guys why I decided to go on this solo trip. So I have a whole list of pros and cons and all of my reasons as to why I chose to do this adventure. So the first reason is, don't wait around for anyone else. If you want to go somewhere, you have that burning desire, that wanderlust, that drive to go somewhere, just do it. I knew that I really had to do this solo trip, and I knew that there was a burning desire within me somewhere to go on this trip. And I kept seeing, it sounds cliche and silly, but I kept seeing visions of Italy and Greece and all of the places that I really wanted to go. But in particular, I kept seeing visions of Cinque Terre, which is this beautiful place in Italy on the Amalfi Coast. And I kept seeing visions of this beautiful place. And whenever I felt myself going off track or down different avenues, or you know, just going off the path that I knew was true to myself and that would actually bring me happiness and fulfillment, I kept seeing visions of what I should actually be doing. So I actually haven't spoken about this before on my channel, but screw it, I'm gonna just bring it up now. Basically, last year, I booked a boob job, and I ended up cancelling this boob job because, long story short, I might do a video on it if you guys want, but long story short, I realized that that wasn't actually what I wanted. It wasn't actually going to bring me happiness and fulfillment. I thought that it would to some certain extent, to some degree. I thought that it would to some certain degree, but in reality, it wasn't really what I wanted. What I really wanted was to go traveling. So instead of using that money for a boob job, I instead used that money to do something that would actually bring me fulfillment. such as going traveling and going to Europe solo. And as I said, it was the best thing that I have ever done. I can't wait to be finished with all of my videos and upload them and show you guys my whole journey, my whole experience. Yeah, so you guys can hopefully get some inspiration, see some beautiful places, and yeah, see the journey that I went on, because it was such an amazing journey in terms of personal growth, personal challenge, not only just that, self-fulfillment and self-realization as well. So there was a whole bunch of things that this trip basically ticked off for me, and yeah, I'm really thankful that I got to do it, especially now that obviously 2020 has been such just a crazy year. I feel burnt out and tired, and I feel like I still haven't done anything with this year, but it has been mentally draining and exhausting, and yeah, it's been obviously really hard for everyone, but for me as well, because I had all these goals and all of these travel aspirations for this year. I was going to go and live in a different country this year. I was going to do all this traveling and all this amazing stuff, and obviously now that's all over for me. So I'm stuck at home doing the same thing at the same job. And that is, you know, I'm grateful for that. I am very grateful to still have a job, because I know a lot of people aren't in the same position as I am, but I'm ready for a change. So anyway, moving on. I'm just thankful and grateful that I stuck to my guns, trusted my gut, and went traveling when I did. So moral of the story, first point is, if you want to go somewhere, if you want to do something, if you have a burning desire to go and travel, just do it. If you have the money, the means, and the time, do it whilst you can, because we don't know what is around the corner and what tomorrow will bring. So do it when you can, book the trip, just do it, you won't regret it. Okay, pros. We're gonna start it on a positive note. I'm not going to end on a bad note, but I'll start it on a positive note. So, first pro is freedom. Freedom. Going solo gives you the freedom to pick and choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, You get to be the boss of your trip. You get to choose all of the destinations you want to visit, your itinerary, your activities. If you want to spend a day laying on a beach all day doing nothing else but sipping on pina coladas, you can do that. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it. You're going solo, you booked it, you get to choose. You make the rules. So that is the best thing. In saying that, you are going to meet people on your journey, which is one of the most exciting and amazing things that I will touch on in this video. I met the most amazing people that I still speak to this day, that I still consider such amazing friends, and I cannot wait to meet up with them on the road again and go on more trips with them. Oh my god, I'm getting a bit emotional. Yeah, especially Blanca, I miss you so much, and I'm so grateful that I met you. If you guys don't know who Blanca is, I met her in Mykonos. She was in my Mykonos vlog briefly, and I love Blanca so much. She's I consider Blanca one of my best friends, and we are planning our next Euro trip together. So that is something that came out of this trip, something so amazing. Yeah, you can form amazing friendships by going solo, because you have to put yourself out there. Whereas if you go with a friend or a boyfriend, obviously you're going to be with them most of the time. So it's less, you're less likely, you'll still probably meet people, but less likely to form those real connections with people, because obviously you're preoccupied with someone else. But Blanca is my friend from Mexico, who I met in our hostel in Mykonos, and we spent most of the time together when I was in Mykonos, and I missed you a lot, Blanca, and I can't wait to see you again soon. So shout out to Blanca if you're watching. So that ties into my next point, which is you create your own rules and your own agenda. So basically what I just said is you get to make up your itinerary, what you're doing, your activities, etc, etc. It's all up to you. Another one that I've already kind of touched on in the first point is is meet new people. Like I said, you make so many friends when you're solo traveling. Of course, it's all about what you put in. That's what you're going to get out of it. So if you're going into it thinking, I just want to spend my which I don't think you would, but if you go into it thinking, I'm just going to spend this whole time alone, I don't want to be bothered by anyone, whatever, then obviously you probably won't meet new people, but you still will, but you probably won't be receptive to it. But if you're solo traveling, generally you want to put yourself out there more, because obviously no one wants to be alone the whole trip. That's sad. That's, you know, that's boring. You want to meet people, make new friends, go on amazing adventures, and just have an amazing adventure. So meet new people. And like I said, I met the most amazing people on my solo trip in Mykonos, in Croatia, on my Contiki tour, in Positano, on the planes as well. I met so many people just on aeroplanes, on buses, just random places that you wouldn't even expect to meet people, and you're not necessarily like, when you're in an airport, you're kind of just like keeping to yourself. But like I said, because you're solo, it can be, you know, a negative or a positive, but people are going to notice that. And if you have, you know, good energy about you, then most likely people are going to like that, and they're going to make an effort to speak with you and yeah, to form a connection with you. So I met so many amazing people that touched me on my trip, like not like that, but that basically made me feel really good. And yeah, I'm really happy. Like obviously I'm happy with the outcome. So on that point, obviously you have to be vulnerable. So when you go solo, you're putting yourself out there. You're going to be vulnerable, and you have to come across as such. It's very important that you know this when you're going into it. You're going to be vulnerable. At times, you're going to feel a little bit scared. At times, you're going to feel a little bit unsure about certain things, but that is all a part of the experience. So vulnerability, although it has a negative connotation attached to it, it's a great thing. It's good to be vulnerable. It's good to put yourself out there and put yourself into a new situation. Okay, my next point is new experiences. Going solo allowed me to have so many new eye-opening experiences that if I went with someone else, I wouldn't have had. So being vulnerable ties into having new experiences and being open to that as well. So for example, when I was in Mykonos, I honestly planned to stay in Mykonos and stay on the island. But when I met Blanca, within the first, I would say, couple of hours upon meeting Blanca, she told me that she was going on this boat trip. So if it wasn't for Blanca and meeting Blanca, and being vulnerable once again, going in this Airbnb, and staying in the hostel when I was supposed to actually be in an Airbnb, which didn't actually work out because it's a long story, but the guy that I booked the Airbnb with was being a bit inappropriate, so I had to cancel, and I ended up booking this hostel. Now, if I hadn't have booked the hostel, I wouldn't have met Blanca. And if I didn't meet Blanca, I wouldn't have gone on this boat trip. And like I said, it's just crazy how sometimes everything falls into place. And you have to question, I don't know if I believe it, but sometimes you think, did that happen for a reason? I think certain things might happen for a reason, but that's another point. So, going solo is going to allow you to have new experiences, and there's gonna be some bad experiences in there too, but overall, hopefully you have great new experiences. And I had so many amazing experiences, and yeah, I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy that I went when I did, because now my life is in shambles, basically. Okay, so my next point is growth. So you are going to grow as a person on so many different levels. You're gonna have to overcome challenges, think outside the box, think about certain things differently, change your perspective on a lot of different things, be more open-minded. I think a big thing for me as well, because I can get quite stressed quite easily. I kind of just had to take, not a back seat because I was in control of what was happening, well, not all the time, but what I'm saying is I kind of had to take a step back and just kind of trust the process, because, you know, I had to be in control of my thoughts and my anxiety and my stress, and not let that overcome me. And you know what, for some reason I didn't get much anxiety and much stress on my trip. When things went wrong, I just kind of problem solved, because I knew that I had to remain calm and level-headed throughout the trip, otherwise I would get too overwhelmed, because obviously, you know, it's all or nothing. You're there by yourself. If something goes wrong, you're the one who has to problem solve that, because hello, you've got no one else to help you. So I knew that I had to remain calm and level-headed, and even when things didn't go right, I just had to, you know, level myself and be okay. So like I said, I just had this like sense of, it was weird. It was like a meditative state throughout my trip of just like, everything will work out. And I think I definitely did take that mentality back home when I got home. But I think now, like thinking back on my mentality on my trip and comparing it to what I am like now that I'm home, I think I could definitely take a lot of a leaf out of my book of how I was when I was on my trip. Because when I was on my trip, like I said, I was a lot more calm. I trusted the process. Whereas when I'm at home and I'm at work and I'm in like the daily grind, I'm like stressing out about things, or I'm, you know, getting a bit upset about certain things. And sometimes I just let things get to me a bit too much when I'm not on a holiday. And I think most people are the same, but I was surprisingly calm on my solo trip versus, you know, in other situations in my life, because I can definitely get very overwhelmed by things if I'm not careful, which I think is kind of happening at the moment with a few things going wrong in my life. I don't really want to rant on YouTube on a positive video, but basically this year has just been a mess. I was supposed to graduate in April. I had my birthday in May, which I couldn't even celebrate. Then I was supposed to go overseas. I was moving overseas, so I have a visa that goes for 2 years for a different country that I can't even use anymore. Then I crashed my car, so I wrote off my car. And most recently I just got a speeding fine. So there's just been a whole bunch of stuff that has hit me all at once, and I definitely am finding myself getting very overwhelmed. But I should definitely take a leaf out of my solo traveling George's book and calm myself down a little bit, because a lot of these things going on in the world right now is out of everyone's control, and we just have to wait for everything to die down, calm down, sort itself out, and find solutions to resolve these current issues that are happening in the world. But I'm trying not to get too caught up in all of this political stuff that is going on, and just trying to focus on myself. So that's another reason why I decided to finally bite the bullet and film my video today. Okay, so I just touched on this point, but basically from solo traveling, it allows you to gain a different perspective and outlook on life. So by going to different countries, seeing how they live, seeing their culture, their differences, it not only makes you appreciate certain things about home a lot more, which I miss Europe a lot. Like, I'll be honest, I love Australia. I'm super grateful to live in a country such as Australia. We're very privileged, very lucky. But when I was in Europe, I have to admit, the only things that I really missed about back home was like avocados, my dog, my family, and of course my friends. But so yeah, but there's obviously certain things that we take for granted that off the top of my head right now, I can't really think of. But when I was overseas, there's certain things back home that you think, oh, we actually have it really lucky in Australia. Okay, I just thought of one. So in Italy, they aren't as privileged in the sense of finding work as what we are in Australia. I know at the moment finding a job is quite hard in this climate, in this current climate, but in general, we're very lucky. We have the privilege of, there's plenty of jobs here, is what I'm trying to say. So we have many privileges in Australia that we don't even notice until we go overseas and see how other people are living. My next point is, it is a personal challenge. So obviously going overseas for me was something that I really wanted to do. It was self-fulfillment, and it was something that I felt like I had to do in order to, I don't know, it was just something that I really wanted. It was really driving me, and I had a burning desire to do it. So reality is, it's a massive personal challenge, and yeah, it's hard. You know, there's a lot of hard things that you have to overcome, and a lot of that comes to prior planning before you go and troubleshooting the types of situations that you might find yourself in. So there was a lot of things that I had to think about before I booked my trip, because if you guys don't know, I booked my trip by myself. I didn't go through an agency or a travel agent or anything like that. I just booked it by myself and did my own research, and throughout my research I kind of just figured out what I would like to do and how I was going to do it. And yeah, I definitely am a bit of a control freak, so I liked having that challenge as well of booking my own trip and being able to pick and choose my activities and really just tailoring it towards what I really truly wanted to do. So it is a personal challenge, and like I said, a lot of things I had to think about before I left. So I would think about, what if this happens? What am I going to do if I find myself in this situation? How am I going to avoid being in this situation? Da 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 da. So for example, I was worried about catching public transport by myself. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stay at Airbnbs and I'm going to correspond with the owner of the Airbnb and sort out transport from the airports to the Airbnbs and vice versa. So a lot of the time I had an arrangement with my Airbnb host to come and pick me up from the airport and drop me off, and I'd obviously give them a tip or extra money in exchange for their service. So that was one way that I troubleshooted a problem, which could have been a problem, being a solo traveler, female, on public transport alone late at night and at awkward times of the day. So that was one thing that I had to overcome. So yeah, personal challenge, massive personal challenge. You're going to grow a lot as a person if you do decide to go solo traveling. It changes your whole mentality, and because I've done that now, I don't think I'm like immortal or like invincible or anything like that, but I just kind of think, now that I've done that, I can do most other things, like it is such a big challenge. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not a big challenge. I've had some people say to me, oh, you just did a Contiki tour, but like, that's not going solo traveling. And each to their own, but I did a lot of other things other than just a Contiki tour. So it definitely still is solo traveling, honey. I got on that aeroplane by myself. I did all these other things by myself, so that is solo traveling, but whatever. Next point is independence. So you are going to feel extremely independent. It's a very big adult thing to do, to go solo traveling. You're definitely cutting ties with mummy and daddy. I still currently live at home, hopefully not for much longer, but yeah, you definitely feel a lot more independent once you've been solo traveling. So it's going to bring you this sense of independence, and I know how I felt when I was doing it, after I had done it. It is such a big accomplishment. So that isn't written down here, but I'm gonna put that as my next point. It is an accomplishment in itself. It is a big thing, and I will just add on that note, solo traveling is not for everyone. I'm not saying you have to be this type of a person to go solo traveling, but you have to want to do it, right? You have to have that drive inside of you. And some people don't want to do that. That is like their worst nightmare. But like I said, if you want to go traveling and you can't find anyone at the time who can come with you, and you really want to go because you know that you've got this life and you've only got one life and you want to do X, Y, Z in your life, go solo traveling. Just do it. You won't regret it. My next point is brave. So I obviously felt extremely brave, and it is a very brave thing to do. You are going overseas. In my case, I was gone for 6.5 weeks by myself. That is a brave thing to do. It takes balls to do that. So not that I have them, but but hypothetically speaking, it takes some guts to do that. So it's a brave thing to do, and if you have the guts to do it, do it. You're gonna feel so much braver, and once you come home, like I said, you're gonna have this sense of accomplishment inside of you. So definitely recommend it. Now, my list of cons, which thankfully is smaller and shorter than my list of pros, which is always good, right? Because you want a bigger list of pros than cons, always. I'll just show you. So here's my pros, here's my cons. Okay, so here are the negatives, the cons of this whole trip. So, number one, it can get extremely lonely. You are going to feel lonely, and you need to accept that before you leave. And you need to accept that before you leave, before you even book your solo trip, before you even start researching. You need to accept that you are going to feel lonely. It is a reality of solo traveling. You cannot expect to go somewhere solo and not ever get twangs of loneliness coming your way, because you are going to get waves of them, okay? Waves of loneliness on this trip. I can guarantee you, no matter how confident you are. Sorry guys, my battery died on my camera, but I am back. So yeah, you are going to get lonely, and you need to accept that before you go, okay? Which I did accept that. I did accept that. However, there's one night that I really remember getting extremely lonely, and to the point that I was crying, and I was quite upset about it. So, I had been to Mykonos, so I stayed in Athens, then Mykonos, and then I flew to Croatia, and I was staying in Dubrovnik. And I put this down to a number of factors. One, I was like basically on 3 hours sleep, if even that. So I was tired, right? I was fatigued, okay? I got to Dubrovnik, checked into my hotel after this crazy plane ride experience. To cut a long story short, I basically boarded my plane from Mykonos, then I had a stopover in Vienna, Austria, right? Where I had to self-check in, okay? So I had to basically get all of my luggages, including my checked-in baggage, get them, okay? Get them and check them in for my next flight, which is not a hard thing to do, but it can make it a bit more stressful, okay? So I did that, got my bags, followed all the signs, went to the check-in desk, well, where I thought the check-in desk was, and next minute, I rock up at customs, and I'm like, why am I at customs? I need to check my bag in. So when I got to customs, I thought, hang on a second, this isn't right. Where's the check-in desk? So I asked the customs lady, I said, I've got my big bag here. Can I check this in here? Like, am I right to take this through? Because this is kind of weird. She goes, yeah, all good. Okay. So off I went through customs with my big bag, which is weird because they let me through customs with my big bag. Got all the way through to my gate with my big bag, okay? My big suitcase, which is supposed to go in checked-in luggage. Got to my gate, my boarding gate, okay? This is a big airport, by the way. So the actual place where I was supposed to check my bag in is like across the street, up bloody three freaking levels of the airport, okay? It was miles away from where I was. Anyway, the customs lady comes down to where I am at my gate because I'd obviously spoken to her earlier, and she goes, actually, you can't have that here. We can't obviously take that on the carry-on baggage. And I'm like, yeah, I figured as much. So this is the thing as well, I forgot to mention. I had to go through passport control where they check your passport and they, you know, they decide if they're going to accept you or not into the country, okay? Because I came from Mykonos to Vienna, Austria, which is a different country. I digress. So I had to go back through customs, back in the opposite direction, back out of the country, back through passport control, out of the country, right, to go back through to the check-in desk to check my luggage in, right, back through customs, out of the country. There was a massive line of people, and this is one of those moments where I had like this inner calmness inside of me for some reason, but in reality I wanted to fucking scream because there was just such a massive line of people and students and classes, and I was just like, oh my god, like I need to get back through here, hello. Anyway, in hindsight, I should have said something to someone, but I didn't because I didn't want to cause a fuss. But I was obviously in quite a rush, right? Because I had to get back through, anyway. So I finally got through there, back across the street, up 3 levels upon asking directions from people to where I had to check my luggage in, okay? And when I got there, the lady at the desk goes, it's too late. You've missed the check-in time. And here I am thinking, this is it. This is when everything hits the fan and everything goes wrong on my trip. Thankfully, I said to her, I need to catch my flight. I just have to go through all of this. I went through passport control and back out passport control, and I came here because I was trying to follow the directions, and I ended up over there, and now I'm back here because they told me to come back here. Please, 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 please. And then thankfully, she accepted my luggage. Thankfully. But if she wasn't a nice person, she could have just said, nope, it's too late. And then I would have missed my flight. And if I missed my flight, I probably would have missed my med sale, which was one of the tours that I went on. So anyway, thank you, lady. Thank you, kind lady at the Vienna airport. I thank you so much. Anyway, checked my luggage in, and I have never run as fast as I have at that airport. So once I checked my bags in, I had to run across the street, obviously down the bloody stairs, down the elevators, and blah, blah, blah. People probably looking at me like I'm a crazy person, but I didn't care. I did not want to miss my flight. I had like no time at all to get back to my freaking boarding gate. So I was running like crazy. I had to run across the street into the other airport section, back through passport control. The lady that had stamped my passport in, then back out, stamped me back in. I was like, this is ballistic, this is crazy. Anyway, then I ran to my gate with 5 minutes. I'm not kidding you. 5 minutes to spare. I just made that flight. It was crazy. Anyway, so I got back to my gate, and I had just made it in time to catch the transfer bus, because it was one of those gates where you had to catch a bus to the actual place on the, what do they call it? On the landing strip where the plane takes off. So I had to catch a bus to get there, and I made it just in the nick of time, and it was insane. It was insanity. Anyway, you're gonna get lonely, you're gonna get scared, and you're going to be vulnerable. That was my next point. You're going to feel so vulnerable, like I did when that happened. Anyway, my point is, when I got to Dubrovnik, I had just experienced all of this, okay? It was insane. When I landed in Dubrovnik, I wanted to cry because I was like, how did that just happen? How did I get so lucky, you know? And it sounds cliche, but I honestly felt like I had someone or something watching over me on my trip. And I mean, I could be wrong, but there was just so many things that could have gone wrong really badly, but somehow just worked out in the end. So there's that. But anyway, when I got to Dubrovnik, I had a really nice taxi driver that was lovely and made me feel just so calm and at ease after such a stressful flight, like the most stressful flight of my entire life. And when I saw him with my sign, like he had my sign in his hands and it said Georgia, I wanted to cry. Like it sounds silly, but I wanted to cry. I actually had tears in my eyes and I was just like, I like blinked them away. Because I just felt like, oh my God, finally, like I didn't think I would make it this far. You know what I mean? Anyway, got to my hotel after a nice taxi drive, and myself and the taxi driver were just talking the whole time. We had a lovely chat. We had so many things in common as well, which was really weird because it was just one of those things where like, what are the chances? You know what I mean? Anyway, got to my hotel, had a shower, tried to just decompress and relax a little bit, freshen myself up. And there was a beach across from where I was staying, and I really just wanted to go and lay on the beach and relax, but I thought, no, I'm only in Dubrovnik for like a short amount of time. I start my tour tomorrow in the morning, so I better go and check out the old town of Dubrovnik before tomorrow. So I got myself ready and went into Dubrovnik. This is a long story, I'm sorry. I was trying to say I'm gonna cut a long story short, but it's too long of a story to cut short. So anyway, I was going to board a bus to go into town. And the bus driver was quite rude to me. And like I said, I was already tired, obviously a little bit stressed out from my flight that I just explained to you guys. And he was like very gruff and like very blunt. He was like, you need this much money. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, where do I get the money from? Like, obviously you don't take card. How do I get the cash? And he was just like very rude to me. And like, anyway, closed the doors and all that sort of stuff. I finally got cash out, went back, caught another bus, okay? Then I went into the old town of Dubrovnik and I was having fun. I was just exploring by myself, taking videos, taking photos. And you have to understand, because I'm doing my YouTube and, you know, documenting the whole thing, I'm obviously, you know, I've got my tripod, I've got my camera stuff, I've got my whole setup, and I'm by myself. So I kind of stick out a little bit, which is fine because I don't mind it, because I know that I've only got one trip to do it. You know, I'm not gonna just, you know, if I want to take my photos and, you know, document all of this stuff, then that's what I have to do. So I was, you know, taking my videos, taking my photos, smiling, having fun, all that sort of stuff. And I was having fun. However, Dubrovnik is quite, even though it's a small place, it feels very big. It feels big, and it is quite a big place. Like I say, it's small, but it is quite big. And especially when you're by yourself and there's all of these couples around and friends and all these people, you are gonna feel lonely, which is what happened to me. I just felt so lonely, and I had fun. I was having fun taking my videos, taking my photos throughout the day. In the afternoon when the sun was still up, I was having fun just exploring and adventuring. But I didn't really meet anyone on the streets like I did in Mykonos. Like it was a different feel, you know, everyone was kind of just doing their own thing. Whereas in Mykonos, you kind of just meet people everywhere. And that's one of the things that I love about Mykonos, because you can walk around by yourself and make friends on the next corner. But in Dubrovnik, it's a bit different. It's more of a city. So anyway, I ended up having a romantic dinner to myself. It was a candlelit dinner. And I was kind of getting a little bit emotional then, because I kind of just felt like I'm by myself, you know, all these like romantic couples are around me, but I was like, nah, I'm treating myself, I'm having a nice dinner. So I had my wine, I had my fish soup, and it was nice. The waiters were really nice to me as well. And if you guys saw my Dubrovnik vlog, they were actually the waiters that were in my video, like on the stairs, like mocking me. It was so fun. It was so funny because I was posing on the stairs, like taking photos and videos, and then they did the same thing. So it was really funny. But that was the restaurant that I ended up eating at. And luckily, one of the waiters, made friends with me and said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, I really want to go and climb the old wall," which if you guys don't know, it's like very famous. It's in the Game of Thrones. It's a very famous old city wall in Dubrovnik. And he said, "Okay, I'll take you. I said, "All right, sure." I said, "Fine, let's go. So he gave me his number. I had him on WhatsApp, and then on the next day, he took me to the old town and the old walls of Dubrovnik. So he took me to the old town of Dubrovnik. So that was great. I'm so glad that I made a friend. Okay, here is the point of the story where the loneliness just got too much for me. So I had a lovely dinner and a lovely walk around the town. So he took me to the old walls of Dubrovnik the next day. So this is where I got really lonely. So I was walking back to the bus to go back to my hotel. I was waiting in line for the bus. Everyone got on the bus and I was just about to get on the bus, and then two people, which were a couple, pushed me out of the way. So I was like, whoop. And then they got on the bus and then I was standing there, and then the bus doors closed because the bus was full. And in that moment, that was the final straw. I was like, no. And I had a little bit of a cry. I walked away and I had a cry in an alleyway because I just felt so lonely and so vulnerable, and I just felt like, why am I here by myself? You know what I mean? So there was only one time when I got really lonely and really overwhelmed, and that was just because I hadn't had much sleep. I had that ordeal with the plane. And I was in a city that's very romantic, has those like romantic vibes where you feel like you should be with someone else. I was by myself, which is fine, but the last straw was that I didn't get on the bus. I got pushed out of the way, and I just felt like so vulnerable, you know, and I just felt like so meaningless, you know. I was just like, I'm just another person here, like, you know what I mean? Like it was weird. So anyway, that was the only time that it really got to me and I felt really overwhelmed with loneliness. So it will happen if you go solo. Keep that in mind. Long story short, you will feel lonely. Okay, which brings me to my next negative, which is it's going to be scary at times. There are going to be times where, depending on where you travel to, there are obviously more dangerous places than others, but you are going to feel vulnerable and scared even in your own country at times. So it can be scary at times. There can be some certain times when you are going to feel scared. This is another thing that happened, another piece of good luck that happened to me on my trip, which was when I was in Croatia, in an island called Hvar. I was with a bunch of my friends from my med sail, and we all caught this boat to this island, to this party island, okay? And then they all got off the boat and I was going to get off. I stepped off, but then I stepped back on the boat because to be honest with you, I was a bit tipsy, and I didn't feel like going on that island. I don't know, I just got bad vibes. So I got back on the boat, right? Reality is I was a little bit too tipsy anyway. But anyway, got back on the boat, went back to the island, and then, because the boat went back to Hvar Island, not the party island that my friends were on, so I got separated from my friends. So long story short, I got separated from my friends on Hvar, and I felt a bit scared. I was a little bit under the influence, I was a bit tipsy, and where our med sail, our boat was that I was staying in, was very far away from the town, and we got warned prior to leaving our boat that it would be very expensive if we didn't catch a taxi back with the rest of the group, or with a group of people, because they just charge excessive amounts for the taxi ride, especially because we were like out on the outskirts of town. So I thought, okay, sure, like we all said, all right, we'll all just catch a taxi back together. But because they got separated, obviously it was going to be a bit more exy. So thankfully, 2 Australian girls noticed that I was by myself after I got off the boat and was on the Havar Island again. 2 Australian girls thankfully noticed that I was alone on this big island by myself. That is a known party island, so obviously a little bit scary to be by yourself, a bit vulnerable, a bit different to Mykonos as well. Like it's just different. So anyway, these 2 girls helped me out. They helped me find a taxi. They walked me back to the taxi rank and waited for me to catch a taxi, because obviously I got separated from my friends and they were off on a party island somewhere and I was on this island and it was just too hard. So anyway, they walked me to the taxi rank, waited for my taxi to come and made sure that I was safe. And that was another lucky circumstance that happened to me on my trip. And I thank all my lucky stars for all of my lucky blessings along the way, because there was at least 3 that I can think of right now. The next lucky thing that I can tell you guys about, lucky story, is that when I was in London, right, I'd gotten off my plane. I just feel like I'm going on these like tangents here, but I got off my plane in London, okay, and I was trying to order myself an Uber back to my Airbnb, which was my plan, because I didn't want, like I told you guys from the start of the video, I didn't want to catch public transport by myself because I didn't want to feel vulnerable or unsafe or, you know, just scared, which I will actually talk about a bit later on. Public transport in Europe isn't nearly as bad as what I thought it would be like. So I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, I got off my plane in London and I was trying to order myself an Uber, okay? So this was after Croatia. I then flew to London. So after Croatia, I went to London where I was going to start my Contiki tour. So I landed in London and I was ordering myself an Uber, and for some reason I had told my bank that I was going overseas, but they had actually blocked my credit card. So I couldn't order an Uber because that was attached to my credit card. And at the time, I didn't have a SIM card as well because I was going to get one in London. That was the plan all along, to buy a SIM card in London, not Greece or Croatia, because it's a bit harder to come by in those countries. So that was the plan. And what happened is that I was relying on the airport weak Wi-Fi, and my credit card, well, not even credit card, it's not a credit card, my savings card got blocked, my debit card got blocked. So therefore, I couldn't order myself an Uber. I was stressing out. This is another time when I got stressed. And this also leads into my next point, which is that it is stressful at times. So I was stressing out. This is another time, okay, one more time that I did actually get a bit overwhelmed and stressed out. So here I was trying to order myself this Uber, wasn't working, my card wasn't working. I was like, oh my goodness me, what is happening? I was trying to FaceTime my mum because I needed help and I wanted to order an Uber, but I had no money because my card was blocked and it was just a disaster. So then my mum wasn't answering. I don't know what time it was back home, but it would have been, you know, a late time of the night or something like that. Anyway, my sister finally answered because I was calling her as well. She answered. I said, oh my God, you have to help me. I was crying. I was like, you have to help me. I'm trying to order myself an Uber and my card's blocked. And just, you know, like freaking out, being dramatic, you know, typical me at times. And thank you, Charlotte. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for helping me because you're amazing. But basically she got mum to help me. Mum was trying to like give me her card details. And also she was trying to sort it out with Commonwealth on their end back home as well. Anyway, so what I ended up doing was, instead of catching an Uber, which was going to be very expensive anyway, is I just got on the metro. And like I said to you guys, I was worried about the public transport and feeling vulnerable and unsafe in Europe. But if you guys don't know, which if you have been to Europe and you have used their public transport, you would know that their public transport is amazing. It's much better than the ones that we have in Australia, much more advanced, much more smooth sailing, and yeah, just a better experience overall. So in Europe, their public transport is much more streamlined as well than what it is in Australia. So it's just smooth sailing. So really, it was a no-brainer. I should have just caught the metro anyway. Anyway, caught the metro. It was easy. It was great. I didn't feel unsafe. It was fine. It was actually quite relaxing and therapeutic on the metro. Yeah, so it was fine on the metro. It was smooth sailing. It was easy going. It was fine. Anyway, got off the metro, and then I was walking around London trying to find my Airbnb. And my Airbnb that I had booked was really central to London. It was like right in the center of the city, which I booked intentionally in that spot for a reason. Anyway, my phone, I was trying to walk around with my luggages, like my 2 suitcases. I was trying to walk around London. Just imagine, just picture me walking around London with my luggage, my 2 suitcases, lost, confused, not confused, just like out of it, like wanting to find my Airbnb kind of thing, you know, by myself, following Google Maps, trying to find this Airbnb. Anyway, I started going around in circles because it kept taking me on these different like paths, and I think it was like, you know how, I don't know about in other countries, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Sydney, Google Maps wigs out with all of the big buildings because it gets confused with the satellites. But in Sydney, Google Maps wigs out with all of the big towers and buildings because of the satellites. So that was happening there as well. And I kept getting confused and getting lost and going around in circles. Anyway, what happened was my phone was on 1%. Okay, 1%. And it like, okay, it went down to 1%, but it was like on 5% when I was like getting closer to the building, but I still hadn't found the building. So I was like, okay, I better find this building before my phone dies and then I'm screwed. But my phone was on 1%. And just as I made it to the door, right? The door of the place that I was staying, my Airbnb, my phone died. And I'm like, wow. Like, what are the chances that my phone stayed on that whole time until I made it to the front door? Like, you know what I mean? If that isn't good luck, I don't know what is. But I was so thankful. So thankful. Oh my goodness. So thankful. And then I couldn't get into the building because I didn't have the passcode because it was in my messages with the Airbnb host. And there was an Indian restaurant next door to my Airbnb, and they saw that I was struggling to get into it. So they helped me out, they took me inside, they helped me charge my phone, they called up the Airbnb host, he let me in, and everything was fine. But that is good luck. And I'm telling you right now, if there wasn't someone watching over me, or at least it felt like there was someone watching over me, I think I just had some really good luck, because what are the chances, you know what I mean? Okay, so that leads into my final negative con point, which is also a positive as well, so keep that in mind. But that is that you will feel vulnerable. There are going to be times when you feel unsafe, vulnerable, scared, lonely, all that sort of stuff. But you take the bad with the good, and the good with the bad. And you have to accept that that is going to happen, and that is a part of the process. So that happened to me. There was many scary, vulnerable, lonely times, but you need to accept that that is what is going to happen if you so choose to go on a solo adventure. And I'm telling you right now, it is well worth the vulnerability and the scary times and the lonely times. The positives, at least in my experience on my trip, I can't speak for everyone, but on my trip, outweighed the negatives 100 times over. I would go through all the stress and all the anxiety just to be able to relive that trip 100 times over. 100 times over. So keep that in mind, that it is definitely worth it, or at least in my case, it was worth it. And I'm sure if you guys do choose to go, it will also be worth it. Okay, so to wrap up this video of my whole experience, I'll just rehash why I chose to go solo. So first of all, I didn't want to wait around and put my life on hold. and I wanted to travel when I'm young, in my 20s. I didn't want to wait for the future or what it may or may not bring, and I just thought I may as well do it whilst I can, whilst I have the freedom, nothing holding me back, nothing tying me down, the money and the time. I had a burning desire to go traveling, and obviously I have wanderlust and I have the travel bug. So I just thought, may as well. So I didn't want to wait around. I didn't want to put my life on hold. I wanted to travel whilst I was young, whilst I had nothing tying me down or holding me back or any other responsibility other than being a uni student. So whilst I had the time and the money, I thought, I have to do this. And finally, I obviously had the burning desire to travel and wanderlust. So with that, with the travel bug, I knew that I had to go. So now this brings me into my next point, which is why you shouldn't be afraid. So there are so many tours that you can do. There's Contiki, there's Top Deck, there's Med Sailors, which is the one that I did in Croatia, which is the tour that I did in Croatia. There's Intrepid, there's different meetups for solo travelers, there's apps that you can use such as Bumble, there's so many things. Airbnb, Airbnb Experience, Facebook groups, there's so many things. With social media these days, with social media and the amount of tours that you can do, the opportunities to meet people are endless. So solo traveling isn't just a great way to grow as a person, but it's also a great way to meet new people, have new experiences, try different things. Yeah, go traveling, not wait around, all that good stuff. So be vulnerable, embrace vulnerability. It can be a bad thing, but it is actually a good thing. Being vulnerable is definitely key. And when you're solo traveling, you are going to feel vulnerable. There's no ifs, buts, or hows. You will feel vulnerable, and it is a good thing. And my final point as to why you should do it is because life is short. Don't wait around. Don't wait for other people. Go traveling if you can and if you want to, do it. Don't make up excuses. Just do it. Life is short. So don't wait around. Life is short. Go do it. So the tours that I did was obviously Contiki, the Quest to Rome tour, which if you're watching this, my Quest to Rome Contiki series is all done and uploaded, and I'll leave a link up here so you can go and watch all of the videos if you so please, if you so choose to do. And I also did a med sail around Croatia, so I'll leave a link here for that video as well. So yeah, finally, without sounding like a broken record, I grew as a person. I had an amazing, life-changing experience where I found new independence. I learned how to be vulnerable and embrace vulnerability, embrace the unknown, obviously travel to beautiful, beautiful places, far away, beautiful foreign places that I have always wanted to go and see. Make amazing new lifelong friends and have these memories that I am going to cherish forever. So overall, I'm so happy that I went. I'm even happier in light of the events of this year and how now traveling is really up in the air for lots of us. We don't know when our next trip will be or if our dream trip will happen. I'm sure it will happen, but we just, at the moment, everything is unknown. We don't know. Everything is uncertain. So with so much uncertainty at the moment, I'm so happy that I took advantage of a time when I could go and when everything was okay and normality still existed. And yeah, finally I was supposed to go and live and work on a working holiday in Canada, and I have in my notes here to talk about that, but obviously I'm no longer going, so I'm still in Australia, just getting by, trying to live my best life, but it's a little bit hard at the moment with everything going wrong in my life. But yeah, thanks for listening to my solo travel journey experience. I hope that this inspires some of you to do a solo adventure in the future when we all can travel again. Hopefully I'll still get to go to Canada, whether that be to live and work or just as a holiday. I'm not sure at this stage, but I hope you guys are all doing well considering the circumstances. And yeah, I hope that one day some of you embark on a solo travel journey, because like I said, it is the best thing that I have ever done and the best decision that I've ever made in my life thus far. So I'm really happy that I went, and I hope that this inspires some of you guys, or even if you don't go solo, I hope that you know, you just embrace new challenges in your life. Say yes to things a little bit more than what you usually would. Put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone. That's another point that I didn't touch on, but obviously going solo was so out of my comfort zone, and it's important to leave your comfort zone in order to grow. So get out of your comfort zone, try something new, do things that you've always wanted to do. And if people don't want to do things with you and you have the time and the money, go for it. Just do it. Do it solo. There's no shame in doing things by yourself. It shows strength and bravery, and I'm so glad that I did it, and I'm here to tell the tale. I survived. I didn't die. I didn't get taken despite what everyone said. I'm still alive. Hardly, but I'm still here. And yeah, my next adventure, whether it be Canada or New Zealand, I'm thinking New Zealand is probably more realistic and around the corner. I'll see you guys then, I guess. And I still have lots of travel and beauty content that I still want to get up for you guys. So I've got my whole Bali vlogs that I have to edit, which are coming up next, and a whole bunch of beauty content and probably more lifestyle content like this. So if you guys want more like advice, lifestyle, travel videos, let me know and I will get them up for you. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching. It was quite a long video to film, which is kind of one of the reasons why I put off filming it for so long, but I'm really glad that I finally filmed it. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching and listening to this video. And like I said, if you guys took something away from it, give me a big thumbs up, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.